We're on, I think. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode, oh, Neil, I'm going to get it wrong, 10, 11. Episode,
11.
episode 11 of Transatlantic MMA. We have the pleasure to be joined by Dean Amasinger, who is the Director of MMA and Head Coach for the UFC Performance Institute in Shanghai. Thank you for joining us, Dean. Pleasure to speak to you. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks for sorting this out and being flexible with the time and stuff. But good to be on the chat to you guys.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's good to have someone so close to the sport on, particularly at such a I suppose interesting time. Just to kind of, I guess, elaborate a little bit on your history, and obviously you fought, you were involved with the Ultimate Fighter. You've gone on to now become a coach. Still involved with MMA in many ways, also through Full Reptile with the likes of Dan Hardy and the guys over there as well. So yeah, what's I suppose to ask it simply, what are you up to right now? I've got a particularly interesting role with the UFC, so
yeah,
tell us a bit more about that. That'd be great.
Well, I mean, as you explained, I'm the Director of MMA and Head Coach at the Performance Institute in Shanghai. But obviously, with the global pandemic, we've actually been shut since February. The timing of it was pretty. And so I'm actually in Canada at the moment, and so we were shutting down anyway for Chinese New Year, because that's their most important holiday in China. It's like more like their Christmas. They have like 2 weeks off. Pretty much the whole country shuts down, and that's right around the time that everything was sort of kicking off. And so we've got a number of expat staff that are from Australia, New Zealand, another one in Canada as well, England as well. And so everyone had kind of gone home for Chinese New Year because we were shut anyway, and we were timing it as a holiday. So I was actually going to be staying there, and my eldest daughter and my mum were coming to visit. We're going to go like the Great Wall of China and do all stuff like that. Yeah. And then everything just started to just shut down. And this, obviously now looking back, we realized that you're going into a pandemic, but at the time it was still, you weren't really sure how serious it was, and there was conflicting stories about how serious it was and whatnot. So but then like Disney World shut down. I thought this is for Disney World to shut down in Shanghai completely, this has got to be serious.
All of a sudden it started getting serious.
And then like the Great Wall of China, we had a tour guide like taking us around and to Tiananmen Square, and we're doing like touristy stuff like that, and they all the tour guide cancelled all of them as well. So then I really was knowing this is getting serious. And then my mum's 64 and I didn't want her coming, so we switched it to a holiday in Thailand. So I changed their flights. They met us in Phuket, and then I went to Thailand for a little holiday. But again, at that time, thinking, I'll just be there for a couple of weeks, things will calm down and we'll go back. But I've basically been out of China thinking I was going away for a 2-week holiday. But yeah, since February, and then been away out of China since then, because I couldn't go back after that.
Yeah, of course.
And I ended up staying in Thailand, and actually it was actually really good because I turned it into a work trip, a professional development trip, and I visited AKA and Tiger Muay Thai and Phuket Top Team, and just like chatted to the coaches there, talked about what they're doing with their programs, information sharing, because obviously most of those gyms have UFC fighters as well, and just talking about what we're doing in our program in Shanghai, and inviting those guys to use the facilities and utilize it. So it was actually really good in that respect, and interacted with some of the UFC guys that are over there and using it as a training camp. And that was for about 4 weeks. I ended up staying there. And then all of us because it was looking like the border was still shut in China, all of the expat staff got flown to Vegas, to the head office. So we were in Vegas for 4 weeks. And that was
like
great.
April, is it?
Yeah, this is like March.
March, okay, right.
March, yeah, because all of February
kicked off a lot earlier, I suppose.
Yeah, earlier, yeah. This is like I think it was like January, February. I was in Thailand, and then mid-February went to Las Vegas, and so we were all there. And it was actually really good because the Shanghai team, although at some points some of the Vegas staff, like when we first opened, like the 3 VPs, Duncan French, James Kimball, and Forrest Griffin, who are effectively the bosses of all the PIs. They had come over when we first set up, and then also other of the members of the directors like Heather and Bo and Clint at separate times have come over, but we never actually come together as the Vegas team and Shanghai team at one time, just because logistically, we can't all be away from either Vegas or Shanghai. And we were trying to plan to have that as like few trips over the next year geared to get everyone interacting. And so the silver lining of it was that we were all in one place at one time, and we've done some, and it was like really good work to be around. There was also a UFC in Vegas. That it was the UFC 249, I think it was 48.
249, yeah.
Yeah, with
Casey and Tony.
Israel. No, Israel
Oh,
Adesanya was
sorry.
second. It
Okay.
was
Yeah.
248.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We're
Israel
well earlier.
Adesanya and Romero. So we
Yeah.
were there for that. So that was great to see what the operations are like around Vegas when they're doing the weight cuts at Apex and all of that stuff. So that was good for the Shanghai crew as well. And then just collaboratively working together, because I don't know whether you've seen, but the PI, we produced a volume 1 of a PI journal, a cross-sectional analysis of the MMA athlete, and that was produced in like 2018. So we're currently working. I can send it over the e-version of it. I can send it over to you.
That'd be sick. Yeah, please do.
And so so we're currently working on the second volume of that. And another silver lining of it is that we would have had to work on that around all of our coaching and whatnot, whereas now we've like concentrated on it, and again collaborating with the Vegas and Shanghai teams, because we are one team, although we have two sites. Working together in that sense towards the journal while the PI was shut in Vegas, and because Vegas went into lockdown, and that's when I came to Canada.
Gotcha,
and my wife's Canadian, so we're staying with her parents right now, and we have been since the end of March basically.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
and everyone's kind of gone. All the expats went back to their respective homes, and we're just kind of sitting tight until China opens up again. But
right.
like I said, we're working on that second. It's not like we're not doing anything. We're working on that second journal. It's been really good to have the time to really put the effort into it, and it's come together as like a really impactful piece that I think will kind of raise the awareness around some of the sports science that goes into MMA and a number of factors like concussion protocols, and we're covering like quite a broad spectrum of MMA. So I'm really looking forward to putting that out. It's been really good.
I must say I was kind of, because I'm a massive Dana White fan. I was pinned to him with every interview, and he was saying we're not letting anyone go. There's no staff, and I was thinking, I was like, geez, there's gyms all over the world. They must all be shut. What are the staff doing? So it's interesting to hear, particularly that you got everyone together and collaborate, which is probably have never ever happened in any other circumstances, right?
Mate, I cannot thank the UFC enough for the way they've looked after us. Like, they've been unbelievable, like gone above and beyond what you'd expect someone to do with us being international. They I don't want to go too much into the details, but they gave us extra because we were out of our, when at that point when we came out of China, we weren't able to go back. We were stuck wherever we were, and I was in Thailand, and so, they were covering stuff like that. They flew us all to Vegas. They flew us all back to where we like I am now in Canada. We continue, we've got job security, and Dana was sending us weekly videos to all the staff on a Monday, just like giving us a top up and checking on people, and it was really good for the team spirit of it. We felt like we were being looked after because we were, and that, so it's that, from that respect, it's been absolutely amazing, and I couldn't thank them enough, really, because I look at some of my colleagues that I know in professional sport and other sports that are furloughed right now because the season is stopped, or it's a tough place to be in now for professional sport. So there was a moment or two where we're thinking, what's going to go on here, and they've said, we don't worry about that, we're gonna, and he's been so dogged about it, gotten the events going, and I've seen the protocols that are in place, the SOPs for fight week and what goes into that, and the safety precautions that are all in there, and it's just so extensive. They're not risking anything, and you think about every person that has had a positive test so far, every fighter, there has been no contamination from those people, which means that they're doing everything properly. You can't stop people coming that are infected, because that's just the nature of what's going on right now. But the fact that they haven't had anyone come in who has infected anyone means that the protocols around social distancing and masks and all of that stuff has been in place and has been working. And I think the UFC are incredibly proud of that, and other sports, like the NFL and NBA are like looking to the UFC about what they've done. And Dana's not holding anything close to his chest with that respect. He wants sports to get going as well, and he's sharing that information. So I'm definitely right now, I mean, as always, but right now I'm super proud to be working for the UFC.
I'm jealous, I must say.
I think we both are, but that's also it's also good to hear as well, you know, because a lot of the time it's baseless, but you know, you hear about fighter pay and things like that. You know, we've talked about that, but yeah, it's great to hear that the organization is looking after its members. You know, so thanks for giving us that insight. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
And Dean, you mentioned the kind of the I suppose the talent development kind of system in Shanghai. You kind of touched on that. I know there's kind of I suppose an extra element to the PI in Shanghai that doesn't exist in Vegas per se, in terms of growing I suppose the talent crop for lack of a better term in that region. So can you tell us a little bit more about what the setup is like there? Obviously you're on the ground, so no better man to kind of give us a bit of detail.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so in Las Vegas, has been going for a few years. It's got a different sort of remit in that it's available to all UFC athletes to take advantage of all the services there: nutrition, sports medicine, and strength and conditioning. But there was no technical element in terms of technical coaching staff, because people are transient and coming in with different coaches, and there'd be a conflict of interest there. Yeah, so there was no sort of need for that. And with respect to, like, you know, reducing the amount of people that miss weight, reducing the amount of people that miss out on fights through injury, the PI has been instrumental in that. And there's an associated, you know, cost when any UFC that gets lost through an injury or a person missing weight or a main event, there's an associated cost with that for the UFC. So with the PI, you know, reducing the amount of people missing weight, reducing the amount of people that are going injured into fights, both with the you know, actual work that the Heather and her team that do there on the physical therapy side, but also in terms of education around, you know, rehabilitation and whatnot from the SSC staff. So that's been what's been going on, and it's been in Shanghai and Vegas, and it's been really productive and successful. But then in Shanghai, we also have that, but the added remit is that it's a UFC academy. So we're looking to recruit the best up and coming talent from around China, and fast track them to get them to the UFC. So at the moment, there's only 10 or 11 Chinese UFC fighters. And as you can imagine in terms of like a population, that's not there's not a lot. And so the sport, although historically they have a huge history within, you know, martial arts, obviously, and there's still a lot of participants in the sport. In terms of MMA, it's probably, you know, 10 or 15 years behind in terms of its awareness and its popularity. Now, Zhang Weili winning the title has had a huge impact in raising that awareness. She's on national TV over there. She's like big sponsors like L'Oreal and, you know, all the, you know, kind of blue chips sponsors. She's going in that direction where she's getting huge exposure, but still, in terms of the understanding of the sport, is a little bit behind. So the talent is there. There's no doubt about it. And so what we did, we developed something called the MMA Combine, which is like the NFL Combine, but obviously specific to MMA. And then we recruited, I think it was at first, about 50 athletes from around China, based on their record, speaking to managers and the association that we had with certain gyms that already have guys in the UFC and so forth. And they all came to the PI and they went through this combine. And then through a process of the scores that they got from that, it's a split of physiological tests and technical tests, and then based on their record and fight video and a number of their age, and you know, we recruited 24 athletes to be there full time as part of the academy. They get all their training arranged by the team, and then their accommodation, everything, and they get paid to fight.
Sick,
So and then we did that again 6 months later. We went up to 36 athletes that are in the academy, and then we train them, put them through to fights. We have a relationship with local promotion called Wars, and then we, you know, on each event we have about 10 guys that fight pretty much. So we can plan. We know exactly when those fights are coming, so we can plan their off camp, their fight camp, and their appropriate training, you know, across those phases.
Okay.
And then the idea was, before the pandemic, was that we were going to get excuse me, we were going to get the Dana White's Contender Series Asia. And so that was and RPI is like the apex where we have production facilities. So we were going to have Dana White Contender Series Asia, and it was going to be our Chinese academy athletes versus, you know, Korea, Japan, and Thailand. It was all set. Like, it was the first event was going to be April, and it was going to be one a month for the next 8 months. And Dana was going to video call in. I think he probably would have been there for, you know, one or two, but not obviously not all of them.
Yeah.
And then and have like Bisping and that commentating. So it was going to be like a really cool show. But that would have been the sort of avenue or pathway for our academy athletes to get to the UFC in terms of like
stepping stone.
The stepping stone, exactly.
Yeah,
so that we're making sure that they are ready, because the domestic scene in China, although it is a good level, and our guys are fighting like Russians and people from all over, so they're fighting guys with good records, but still, we don't want anyone going in there that's not quite ready. So that contender series would be perfect for that, to see if they're ready. So that was all set up, and we got a KPI in terms of how many people we want to get into the UFC, and that's kind of been like put on pause for now, I guess, and then hoping when the pandemic sorts itself out, we'll get back to that. But that is the plan of what we're doing in Shanghai, pretty much.
That's pretty sick.
I want your job so badly, you've no idea. I don't have any of the credentials, but I really want the job.
Mate, no, it's a dream come true. Like, even I don't take for granted how lucky I am to have the job. It's something I've been working towards my whole career. And as I was working as a technical coach in MMA, I also worked in strength and conditioning, and my undergraduate degree is in nutritional biochemistry. So I have like the background across nutrition, S&C, and technical coaching, which I think is important to be a director of MMA or a head coach that is across all the departments. It's good to have a level of understanding in those things, and with the approach that the PI has in terms of an interdisciplinary approach where everyone works together and not working in silos. That's important that I have that understanding of the sports science side of things, and we do have a very sort of scientific approach to MMA preparation.
Okay, yeah, sick. And this, I suppose, you're very involved with 36 fighters, I suppose, or I suppose 36 fighters at the moment, not over the last few months, but you've been doing plenty of cornering and plenty of, I guess, being involved as head coach of MMA. Can I ask, do you have any particular moments throughout your coaching career, I suppose, that you remember fondly or more fondly than others, Dean, that are kind of standing out over the last few years?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot, and like I said, I don't take any of those for granted. And even in the moment, I'm often like, even when I go to work now, I'm still sometimes when I sit in my office, I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing that. And because I started as a fan of the sport.
Good thing to be able to say.
I thought I fought in the sport, and I was around at the highest levels in terms of coaching in the UFC and cornering guys in the UFC. It's still, every time I did it, it's a surreal out of body experience sometimes, and I still try to have that sort of white belt mentality of appreciating and not taking for granted, so that I'm constantly trying to learn and better myself. But one that sticks out would be probably the highlight was, although the result didn't go our way, was cornering Bisping against GSP at Madison Square Garden. Was one of the most surreal moments of my life, really. It was cool in terms of Bisping and I are old friends. We started training together. Well, he was well ahead of mine. But my first gym that I went to in Nottingham, when I went to Nottingham University, he was training there with Paul Daly and Dan Hardy, and we were like on wooden floors in a community centre. Like, there was only 2 mats, so only one pair could grapple at a time, and the rest of us were doing stand up, and then we'd like switch around and rotate. Right. And so I've known him since back then. Then we're on the Ultimate Fighter, where he was my coach, and that's where we really sort of reconnected, and then we've stayed friends since then. And then it kind of went full circle. I ended up working with him and looking after his nutrition and kind of program direction in terms of like periodization of hard to easy sessions and whatnot, and looking at that type of thing. And then I was actually a training partner for that GSP fight because of my my wrestling background and stuff. And all of that I remember I didn't want, obviously was never going to say it to Mike because it'd take him out of the moment, but I just thought we were on that community center training MMA on a wooden floor 10 years ago or whatever, and now we're in Madison Square Garden, where Muhammad Ali fought, and I grew up watching boxing. My dad's a big fan of boxing. That's kind of, I've always been a fan of combat sports, and it was just a really surreal moment.
I can't even imagine.
I've gone to I've tried to not miss a single event since I've lived in New York City, and like just being at a live event, I brought one of my close friends. What was the card? Oh, it was the Masvidal and Diaz, the BMF belt. his first time at a live event, and he'd never experienced anything like it, you know. And you know, I've been fortunate to go to a lot, but I cannot imagine the difference in feeling being in a corner, you know, in MSG, you know, and it was a huge fight as well.
Main event,
massive.
and and like when you're standing up by that cage, and you know, Bruce Buffer's announcing him, and the crowd, the energy, you felt it there. There's something special about Madison Square Garden. I've been to, you know, MGM and the O2 and MEN, but I've never felt anything in terms of the energy that was there. I felt like the energy is still in the walls, like from the history that's involved in there, not just combat sports, but all, you know, all sport. And it was a really special place. Like it gives me tingles just thinking about it now. You know, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dean, I don't want to keep you too long. I really appreciate the time, but I cannot let you go without asking you about, speaking of historic events, we have a pretty historic event going on this Saturday with UFC 251. So you've kind of seen it from an employee of the UFC's perspective. How the hell have they managed to get all these fights going on UFC and also, what do you make of the matchups this weekend? What a card we have out of us.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the Dana's just been so strong-minded about it that he wasn't going to let anything get in the way.
He's
and
an
then
animal.
The partners in Abu Dhabi have been incredible in terms of the resources and you know, allocating the space and the organization there. They just, I mean, if you know Dubai and Abu Dhabi, the construction there is just crazy. They, you know, put skyscrapers up in no time. So the infrastructure has been put in place for you know, a couple of months now, and every safety precaution that you can think of is in place because they want it to be a success, obviously, and want it to be open for, if needed, to happen again, sort of thing. So, you know, that international fight week in July, which is normally in Las Vegas, is normally one of the biggest cards of the year anyway, and it's now been moved to Fight Island. But it's genuinely, you know, like a massive historic event. In years gone by, I'm so glad that not the Gilbert wasn't deserving. Like, I think he's up there as one of the number one contenders, but the history between Masvidal and Usman and the momentum that Masvidal has from the 3 victories that he's had, I think it is the sort of main event we deserve. And I'm just kind of, like, again, as a fan, forget my role of what I'm doing. As a fan, I'm genuinely so excited about it. Like, most of the conversations I'm having with anyone is about that fight right now.
And also, Dean, do you know of, because obviously they're sharing this picture of the octagon next to the beach, like, that's surely not where it's taking place. Like, do you know anything about it? They're just sticking an octagon next to something to make it look cool, or what's the situation with that?
No, I think that's it. But the fights are going to be at US time.
Right.
So it's going to be like the main card in Abu Dhabi is going to start at 2 a.m. And then the main event will probably be about 7 a.m. So it'll be, and if you think about it from the time of year, I think it had to be kind of thing because it's so hot there. So it's in the night, but obviously there's the pay-per-view implications of having it any other time. It has to be US time, but there's also the logistics around the heat of having, but at night, obviously still hot. I don't know if you've ever been to Dubai. Like, nighttime it's not that much.
We were in Dubai,
we were there together, actually.
It was a work incentive. We were at Lawrence Kelly. Shout out to Lawrence Kelly, by the way, for hooking us up.
So that was part of it as well. But as far as I know, that is where at least some of the events are going to be. I haven't checked the I haven't asked about that, but I don't know for certain. But as far as I know, I think it is. Yeah.
And so do you know if they're going to cover it at all? I mean, what if there's like a flock of birds coming by and decide to drop something, you know, on the octagon? I can't imagine that will work very well.
There's definitely something in place for
birds.
The
past 2 events, like I went to the first one in Abu Dhabi when I was cornering Nico Shipshat when who was it? Anderson Silva versus Demian Maia and BJ Penn versus Frank Yeager, the first one. But that was open air. That was, they had the lighting rig above it, but you know, but that was about it. I think, as far, you know, it was open, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't at the Khabib one. But I'm pretty sure the Khabib one was also open air. So I the fact that it's by the beach obviously is a bit of a novelty, but I'm not actually sure. I probably should check that before we.
I think the weather is far more predictable in
Yeah,
the
I mean,
Middle East
there's any
than,
worry of rain or anything, but
yeah, definitely
it's
in
more
England and
just
Ireland anyway.
yeah, but it's more just you know, I remember even when Nick fought, it was he felt he gassed in the third round, and he felt that
Just
heat
the
made a difference. Yeah, we didn't
yeah
necessarily acclimatize to that fighting the
yeah.
heat. You had the lights plus just the ambient temperature. It was hot.
It's just a different kind of humidity, probably. Yeah, you mentioned the time. Neil lived in Dublin with myself until 2-3 years ago now. Neil, is it
Yeah,
what?
close. I've been in New York for close to 2.5 years now.
2.5 years. So I don't know about you, Dean. Obviously, I'm sure you've watched plenty of live fights living in England. You know, back a few years ago. But we used to stay up, and we used to like get up real early on a Saturday, go for a nap Saturday evening, start watching the countdown at like 10, and then go straight into the whole card and watch the whole
Yeah,
card until 6 a.m. Now
always.
this fucker's living in New York, and I'm here doing it by myself, drinking coffee like 4 a.m, drinking coffee, trying to stay awake watching the fights. I'm living in the
Yeah,
wrong damn continent. Even if I was in Australia, I could watch it on Sunday morning. You know, I'm literally banging the wrong place to be an MMA fan, but doesn't stop me.
unless it was like basically for the pay-per-view events, I'd stay up and watch them, and you know, and then but if it was a fight night or something, I normally just wake up in the morning first thing and watch it rather than
Get it recorded.
get it recorded, and then don't look at my phone, just watch it first thing, because it does mess up your week staying up till 7 in the morning
Yeah.
to
Well,
watch it.
if there's I was telling Neil this earlier, if there's any proof that I'm an absolute savage of an MMA fan, I have a half day this Thursday. I'm off Friday and I'm off all next week, so I can adjust my body clock to just watch the fights all week. And I've taken a week's holidays from work for no other reason other than International Fight Week.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
man,
do it from my house.
it's so cool that the three fights. There's some amazing fights on the
Yeah.
card. I can't wait. I think like obviously this weekend, with Masvidal and Usman, that's like, even with Masvidal taking it on short notice, which I don't think is going to have as much impact as people think it's going to, because if you remember, like he was in line to be fighting, and then Gilbert Burns took it about 4 weeks ago, but from what so he would have been training up until that point, and then after that he said that he didn't like stop training, he just probably took his foot off the gas a little bit. It wasn't like he was going out partying or anything like that. He was still training, and when you're at that level, he's an elite level fighter in terms of experience both and ability, so the conditioning element has an impact on novices and people of lower ability, because you panic and you're not able to pace the fight as well. But someone of Masvidal's experience, he's never going to panic because he's been there 100 times, and he's part of conditioning is being able to pace a fight and stay composed, which he definitely is able to do. Having said that, Usman pushes the pace, makes you fight, and potentially makes you fight outside of the pace you would like to, and grinds on you. So I think it largely depends on how Usman decides to fight, how it goes. I think pretty much. But I'll still say under the circumstance, it's a pick 'em fight.
Yeah.
And then the co-main Volkanovski, another amazing fight.
Amazing fight.
I'm not sure. Holloway's had said some interesting things about what his training's been like. I'm not sure whether to take that with a pinch of salt and he's being tongue in cheek, or I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree. I don't believe it. I think you might be going in with a slightly different approach. I've actually I write for an MMA organization called Overtime Heroics, and I actually wrote that preview and breakdown. And a lot of people kind of mentioned that to me, that it doesn't seem to be in the right kind of headspace. And and I was like, I think he's joking. I don't buy that for a second. That he hasn't had a proper training camp. Particularly, I'm a huge fan of Holloway's. Like I have been throughout his whole career, and I feel like this is the first time that his back is up against the wall. It's the first time. I think the Poirier loss really kind of changed, or it potentially changed him as a fighter. And I think you could see that against Volkanovski. He didn't really put that pressure on that he's famous for. He was a little bit more reluctant. So I think he's going to be a lot more aggressive this time around. And I don't believe any of that for a second. I think he's trying to get people going.
Yeah. Him and Daniel Cormier are pretty close, I believe, and Cormier said yesterday that he doesn't believe him at all. So I believe, I was like, oh, okay, Jesus, so he trained over Zoom, he's a lunatic. And then I was like, Cormier was like, I don't believe him. I was like, I don't believe him either.
No.
Yeah.
And I think fight of the night potential is actually the Jan Aldo fight.
We are crazy for this fight, the two of us. We
Yeah.
think this is gonna be the best fight ever.
One of my guys, a guy called Ed, who he was a BAMMA world champion, Supreme Challenge world champion, and he fought Jan in his last fight before going to the UFC, before Jan went to the UFC, and it was a close decision fight. Jan won, but Ed still talks about how tough Jan was, and that he's like different level of strength. Took a punch a different way, and his punching power and pressure was just like nothing he'd ever felt.
Yeah.
And so I've followed his career because of that sort of connection of cornering against him, and he he's gone from strength to strength. And then when I went to Tiger Muay Thai, I'm actually friends with his boxing coach, a guy called John, who's an incredible boxing coach, former ranked WBC boxer. He's now come to sort of MMA and is the head boxing coach at Tiger Muay Thai. And you can attribute a lot of Jan's slick boxing to his coaching. And I actually watched some of their sessions, and yeah, he's phenomenal athlete. But Aldo's Aldo, and I think that he's also an incredible technician. He's moved down a weight category, still carrying that power. And as we all think, I think you'd probably both agree that he won that fight against Moraes.
Yes.
And I don't actually have any complaint about him, especially, Aldo is one of the greatest featherweight champions of all time. And it's not just any guy giving a title fight off a loss. It's Aldo. He's, arguably in the conversations for GOAT, although he had losses. But you look at that run that he had of 7 title defenses and the type of defenses he had in that time. I have no grievances with him fighting for this title, and I think it's going to be an incredible fight.
Yeah. I mean, the only slight complaint I had is I thought, Petr Yan's obviously he's an animal, it's quite clear, but he hasn't really faced the best in the division. I would have much preferred to seeing against Moraes first, and I thought Aljamain Sterling was more deserving of fighting for the belt against Aldo. But yeah, I mean, that division is just it's a madhouse of talent.
Yeah.
Well,
you think it's just a great. Sorry, go for it. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say there was a rumor swirling yesterday because obviously Pedro Munoz has tested positive for COVID-19, and Aljamain Sterling tweeted that he's headed for Fight Island.
Yeah.
So that's a fight I can get ready for. Edgar and Aldo.
That, but I was like, I don't know why would he take that fight, because he's clearly the number one contender.
No, I don't. I think he was joking about that.
Maybe Frankie Edgar.
So, because that. I don't know.
Frankie Edgar and Fight Island, because he said that he's crazy to fight in Fight Island. Now maybe he's just like.
Yeah, but I think him and Frank, not training partners, but they're definitely boys. They're from that same
kind of connected. Yeah,
same kind of crew with
with
what's his name, Mark Henry, and then
Aljo got me.
What's his name? Sarah and Longo, Ray Longo.
Longo.
They're kind of, those guys seem to, you see them all, kind of training together and connected. But I could be wrong on that. But I have no inside information for you regarding that.
No worries. I got to try. And Dean, I must say as well, I'm sorry to keep you, but I spotted a Full Reptile T-shirt there. I think, if my eyes aren't deceiving me.
Yeah.
So I've seen Full Reptile really bursting onto the YouTube channel, but I suppose there's been a lot of really brilliant content coming out of the YouTube channel and stuff recently. I've been watching a lot of the War Room breakdowns and things, which are phenomenal. So you're obviously involved there as well.
One of the co-founders, obviously, it's Dan's sort of brainchild, really, and then Ollie and myself came on board, Ollie Richardson, and then Wad and Owen as well. Owen Oxley is our creative director, who we have to thank for the designs and stuff of both the website and then the actual clothing as well. He's a wizard with all that stuff. It's like I said, it's a collective of us guys that we've known each other for a long time. I've got that connection with Wad, who I think as well, and then Dan and Ollie and myself, we were all from Rough House together, and it's just wanting to work together with friends and like-minded and an ethical business as well, in terms of where we source our stuff from and whatnot, which is important to us. And then the YouTube channels with the Raptors, who Dan worked out of the media sort of end of it, and they produce some amazing content. I don't know whether you've seen the story of the women's strawweight division video, which is just it's amazing. It's
haven't actually seen that yet. No.
Oh, check that out. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's narrated over by Dan, and also there's a one that's he did with Masvidal, where he went to watch Masvidal train, and they had a chat. That's also great because Dan's got that relationship with him, and it's just Masvidal's so relaxed in it, and Dan's got that insight from being the analyst that he is and the fighter that he was.
Real, recognised real, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So there's some great content on there. Dan does his podcast as well with Owen, which is good. Which sometimes I'm on, or Owen or whoever within our crew, sort of thing. So no, it's going well. I mean, obviously I had less involvement with it with being in China as I was when I was in England, but I'm actually coming back to England in August for a couple of months before I go back to China. So yeah, looking forward to connecting with those guys and doing some more bits for sure.
Perfect. Listen, Dean, thank you so much for the time. I know it's not that late for you. I for a second there, you're talking about England. I thought it was like nearly 12. I was like, for staying up so late, that's just me. But
I'm on the West Coast. I'm in Kelowna, Canada, so it's only like 3:40.
Okay, all right, nice area. But
look, no worries.
Really appreciate the time. Thanks for coming back, and look, hopefully we can keep in touch to some extent. It's been great picking your brain, and just thanks again for coming on. You're a legend.
No problem. Enjoy the fights.
Yeah, great speaking with you, Dean.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Take it easy, mate.
You guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Man, it's at times like that where you sit back and you're like, fuck, you think you knew about this sport, and then he starts chatting. Like, I feel like an absolute casual talking to him.
Right. I know, yeah.
It's crazy.
I know, yeah.
But great job getting him on. That was fucking, I didn't even want to speak. I just wanted to, he talks really quickly. So he got through so much, and I was like trying to keep up, which was amazing because he like just filled us with content that we didn't know about.
I could go on night.
He's got the coolest job in the world, and that's fucking sick. I mean, the only question I wanted to ask him that I didn't get the chance to was what fighters we should be looking at coming out of China. Or
fuck it.
So you gotta drop a message after that. We'll put that up on the YouTube channel after this.
Excuse the language. Damn it, Fozzie. I mean, what a cool situation. And even here and there, like what went on from like the PI in Shanghai perspective, right? Like, so COVID kicked off over there, obviously February. So like all the staff were basically in Vegas by March, and then it's just this whole year has been shit in some regards, excuse my language again, but it's also been fascinating, like to see how different industries adapt, different businesses adapt, fighters adapt their camps, even like, you joined a new job in the middle of this, how you onboarded remotely, like everything's been so weird but so interesting at the same time. I'm just kind of like, that was for me, that was phenomenal. Now getting a look inside the actual UFC business from the perspective of someone that's pretty high up in the organization, that kind of way. So
big time. Yeah. So anyway, just on top of your point, so I've just written that article as I mentioned, and in the intro I talked about very much what you just said. So I'm gonna read this out to you. Give me 1 second. So after speaking about COVID and pretty much how weird things have been, Dana White and the UFC have tried to salvage some sort of normality. So essentially, announcement after announcement, fight fans have been blessed all around the world during the strangest time of our generation. Add an island and 3 title fights into the mix, and we found the promised land of violence.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. That's quality.
Perfectly sums up the current UFC climate. Like, it's absurd. Like the next 2 weeks are just ridiculous. It's insane.
So we're gonna crank out whatever 4 or 5 podcasts, one definitely between each card, reviewing and looking forward. So let's get straight the fuck into it. Let's get straight into it. UFC 251 with no curses.
Pull it up.
Right. I got it here. We get some screen share going on. So, well, firstly, obviously we have a little bit of kind of breaking news that obviously this. Mike Brown, Jorge Masvidal's head
Yep.
coach, has tested positive for COVID-19. Now I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's already on Fight Island, if he had already tested positive in Vegas. I don't really know the situation is where exactly he's supposed to be. Um, so I don't know, is he like
Yeah.
in transition or is he already there or what? But Masvidal has been tested and is being tested again. I was like, shit, if Mike Brown's after testing positive, then Masvidal
Yeah.
probably will. But doesn't seem to be the case. So can you see the screen here?
So you are you sharing here and nothing's come up yet?
Yeah, it's been very slow. Sure, bear with me. Anyway,
Early prelim started like 3 p.m. my time, which
what?
is yeah. I'm almost unless I've read
What's it
that
usually?
incorrectly.
What's it usually? Like 6, 5, 6,
So 6:30 usually. So
3 p.m. That'd be nice. That'd be like 10 here.
right.
So
So what,
that'd be
are we
nice.
just doing the main card here? Because I'm
Yeah,
about
let's
to.
go to main card. Yeah, so we've got Paige Van Zandt fighting Amanda Ribas, and last fight on Paige's contract. Apparently, Paige
Oh,
is
hold on. You've disabled screen sharing. Right. I'm gonna read it out. So I think you've just mentioned. So we've got
first fight in the main is
yeah,
Paige.
we've got Rebus and Paige Van Zandt.
Is it just me,
So
or I just don't really care about Paige Van Zandt anymore?
I don't give a
She
I
was a
don't
hot
give a
shit.
shit.
You know, she
She's
was.
a social influencer now. I don't really care what she does inside the octagon. I think yeah,
Plus,
I think it's
she's
quite clear too. She's talking about like testing free agency, so I don't
yeah.
think the desire is there. You know, when she broke onto the scene, everything was about fighting and becoming a champion. So, and look, she's doing a good job. You know, she said multiple times she makes more money doing what she's doing now than she does fighting. So, I mean,
She's.
good for her. Good for her. You know?
I think you'll appreciate this comment, but she's like so in a relationship, she's made herself less attractive to the general male masses out there that follow her because she's good looking. Now, obviously, there's plenty of people who follow her because she's a fighter too, but there's definitely a big gang of people who follow her because she's attractive. But she has the most relationship based page I've ever seen. It's probably hard to keep following her as the gorgeous babe that she was. Now that she's just
Could you imagine Vanderfoot
unbelievably
being
in
in?
love.
Could you remember or could you imagine? Sorry, Vanderfoot being in one of our WhatsApp groups with the video she does be posting with him.
Yeah, you got a bad rubbing one day. Yeah, he'd be getting.
I got it back for one video, which I'll never do again, and he's posting them on a daily. Anyway, my pick for that one is Rebus for the, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm probably not, but
Thank you.
yeah, I mean Amanda Rebus she's very very good. She's you know, she's ranked. I think she's, you know, up and coming. Somebody that I think can, you know, really put it on her. So I'm going with her probably via unanimous decision. Could be wrong. You know, we could see, with it being Paige's last fight on the contract, I believe, you know, we could see her really turn up. But I'm definitely leaning more towards Rebus on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. We better do some picks, by the way. We need to go back and do our picks.
Well, that's my pick. Rebus
That's your pick.
via unanimous decision.
Let me get these down because
I got it.
we gotta keep our bet going on. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Rebus too. We gotta pick method. So
Yeah, unanimous decision.
I'm also gonna pick decision. So we agreed there. Cool. The next fight is Jessica Andrade and Rosa Namajunas. So I'll lead into this one. Obviously Jessica Andrade killed Rosa Namajunas before, literally broke her neck and buried her. And then Rosa Namajunas somehow crawled out of the ground and made it back to America and did some more MMA training and has somehow found her way back in a rematch. So, rematch of this fight, Rose was lighting Jessica up on the feet in the first fight in Brazil.
Oh, she was destroying
her. Just too long, too quick. I see that happening again. Excuse me. And then I see it being more of a situation where Jessica's looking to wrestle or, you know, maybe slam her again, but Rose won't get slammed again. Jessica may be looking to wrestle. She might get Rose down, but if Rose goes down, she has the grappling to kind of defensively take care of herself and get back up. So I favor Rose, But I think she's going to win a decision, and I think it will be close. I could see Jessica maybe taking a third round or something like that. So I got Rose, but it's a decision for me as well.
Interesting. So I would, I don't disagree with any of that. I really don't. I worry about Rose's mental state after the first fight. She just lost a couple of family members to COVID. You know, she's had to pull out of a lot of fights due to very, very shitty circumstances. And as we talked about before, I was an asshole that made some stupid comment about it before I realized that 2 family members had died from COVID. I just don't. I don't know what she's like mentally anymore. She strikes me as somebody who's extremely talented and very, very good at fighting, but also someone who kind of doesn't want to be there at the same time or doesn't want to be a fighter. I don't know. That's just my take. So I don't know. I think she may have some mental issues, particularly with what happened in the first. So I'm gonna go with Andrade via KO in this one, 3rd round. That's what I'm going with.
Okay, Andrade via KO on the 3rd round. Yeah, could happen. See, like I've picked Andrade to win the 3rd round there, so I can feel you. Next up,
I mean, we've actually already talked about this one,
yeah, we
so
have.
I won't be too long with this. I've got Aldo via unanimous decision comfortably. I think Jan is very, very good. I think this is a huge test for him. Aldo looked terrific against Moraes, and Moraes for me was the number 1 contender. Between him and Aldo, was one of them that were true number 1 contenders. Let's keep in mind here, Moraes has won a round against Cejudo. You know what I mean? Like, it goes to show you how good Moraes is. And I thought Aldo coming down in weight handled that brilliantly. He looked as good as he's ever done. I think he'll be a lot more aggressive, and it's a 5-round fight, which Aldo is not a 3-round fighter. He's so used to fighting in 5 rounds. I just can't see. I could see Jan winning the first couple, maybe, probably the first because he comes out of the gates quite quickly. But I've got Aldo via decision in that one comfortably.
Okay, I agree. I think it's going to be Aldo, but I think the fight ends by KO. I think Peter Yan is more likely to win by KO than Aldo is. I'd say Aldo's more likely to win a decision than win by KO. However, if you remember, the method is separate to the fight, so I think it's more likely to be a KO on either side, but I do favour Aldo. So I've broken that pick down like a poker hand. But I'll say this on Peter Yan, right? He beat a 40-year-old Faber, and he beat a Jimmy Rivera who's just doesn't seem to be there anymore. They're 2 impressive names, but other than that, he's beating some talented stuff. So I genuinely think there's an element to this, and I'm not trying to be funny, right? Like, you live in America, so you can comment a little closer, but I lived there for a few months as well. It just seems that the American public are kind of scared of Russian people for some reason.
Oh yeah.
So like Peter Yan is fucking 4-5. Yeah, he's a good MMA fighter, but he's 5'4", right? Fucking Dana is absolutely terrified of him. Like, the hype they're putting around this guy for no reason. Well, not no reason. Obviously, he's 14-1 with plenty of KOs and a 6-fight win streak in the UFC. But not who has he fought, but like I don't think he's proved himself anywhere near close to the upper echelon. I think they're pushing him out as this terrifying Russian kid because that sells in America. Right, and America is the main pay-per-view audience. So I think
really like that either.
He's not really. He doesn't even seem very Russian. He just seems like an ordinary small guy.
He's similar to like Golovkin. Like that's similar type of demeanors. Like he doesn't really chat shit. He seems like a somewhat friendly guy. Like, it's, Khabib is like a Russian scary motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
And look,
I think it dates back to the Cold War, man. I'm not even. I think it dates back to the Cold War. But think about it, right? If me and you were both, whatever, say me and you were living in Ireland together, and France had nuclear missiles pointed at Ireland. Of course we're going to start being afraid of the French. What kind of lunatics are pointing nukes at us for no reason?
Well, you're going down a whole different path here. So let's get into the.
I am sorry, but I can understand how the public began to have fear of Russians, and then that got passed down towards generations, and it inevitably led to Peter Yan being hyped up potentially a little bit more than he should be. That's a very deep rabbit hole to get to a point, but you know what I'm saying. And
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think I think he's very, very good, and I think he probably is a future champion. Like I really do. I think Aldo is by far his toughest test. Aldo looked damn good in his debut at 135. And I think a 5-round fight against a striker in Yan suits Aldo so. And Yan's got a he's got what am I trying to say here? An underrated ground and grappling game, but no one takes Aldo down. So like, so it's kind of caveat, isn't it? So I'm going Aldo via unanimous decision quite comfortably. And then we've got next up. I'll let you take a run at this one.
To keep it very quick, it's a rematch between ex-featherweight champion and potentially greatest featherweight of all time, Max Holloway, and current featherweight champion, the champion who dethroned Max Holloway a matter of months ago, Alexander Volkanovski, the Australian, the little Australian tank. I see this fight going the exact same way. I think both of them are going to have made slight adjustments, but I think stylistically, I don't like agreeing with Alexander Volkanovski when he's like, I've got his number. But I just think stylistically, Alexander Volkanovski is a horrible matchup for Holloway. I see it being a close decision again. I don't see anyone finish. Like, who the hell knows what's going to happen? It's MMA, but I would strongly favor this going to a decision, and I think Alexander Volkanovski is going to win it by a slightly bigger margin, i.e., Frankie Edgar, BJ Penn, or a la Frankie Edgar, BJ Penn. That happened in the desert in Abu Dhabi as well, so we could have a real kind of a call back to that fight. That's how I see it going. So I'm going to pick Alexander Volkanovski, and it's a decision too.
So I unfortunately have to agree with you, which pains me.
I don't like picking Volkanovski. I love Holloway. He's the best.
I know. I love Holloway, but to be fair, I'm a big Volkanovski fan too. They're almost similar in the way they both carry themselves.
Yeah, he's a gent, Volkanovski. I just don't know him as well as I know Holloway. That's my problem.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more, he just comes across as a very, very normal guy that's exceptionally gifted. But yeah, I mean, one of my boys in the Overtime Rogues group, his name's Cameron. Shout out. He brought something up, and it was like brilliant. And I actually added it to the article that I wrote on it. And he said it's almost reminiscent of GSP, like not in the way he fights, but like his opponents. When you look at it afterwards, it's like, how could they have beaten him? And it's like that's pretty much what he's shown throughout his UFC career so far. It's like, where do you beat it? Like where he doesn't really have any weakness.
Volkanovski.
Volkanovski. And it's just like, you saw it against Holloway. It's like, where in that fight did Holloway even look like he had an opening to capitalize or to put pressure back on? Volkanovski
he scraped the fourth and then he won the fifth. Not super comfortably, but he won the fifth. Yeah. That does make this fight very interesting to me, because Holloway, on pretty much every scorecard it was 3-2. First 3 to Volkanovski and the second 2 to Holloway. So I mean, that makes it very interesting for me. So, like, if Max started 10% faster, would it have made a difference? Could one punch in the first have made a difference? Yeah, of course. It's a brilliant fight, and I'm absolutely cheering for Holloway, but I don't think he gets it done.
Well, you're rolling me perfectly into this, because I'm going to go with Holloway, and the reasons for that are very, very similar to what you just said. I think if Holloway is by far at his best when he doesn't necessarily need to start very quickly, but once he starts putting pressure on his opponents, they folded. Like we've seen that. The guy has probably the best resume in the lightweight division ever. Like he's beaten everyone.
Featherweight. You almost made it a whole episode without messing up.
Featherweight, sorry. But yeah, he's so good when he is on the front foot. And I think if he can kind of get to the center of the octagon and try and back Volkanovski up against the cage, that's where he does his best work. You know, he needs to get a little bit more creative with his striking. He needs to throw a little bit, he needs to throw more feints and kind of not be as predictable as what he was maybe in the first fight. He also just needs to fucking check those kicks. Like that was a huge problem, a huge issue.
But he had said I don't know if you've been listening to the interviews, but he said this week, he's like, I didn't check the kicks because they didn't hurt. He's like, if Jose Aldo kicked me 20 times, he's like, I wouldn't walk again. He's like, Alexander Volkanovski kicked me like 75 times in that fight, and I was dancing on my outerbred. He's like, I don't need to check those kicks. I'm in there. I know.
I'm not sure about that though. I think that's a little bit of
for points purposes alone, he should check kicks.
Yeah, 100%.
But at the same time, right? If the leg kicks are not, and I'm speaking as someone who got battered by leg kicks one time in training and fucking moaned for about a month after, if you're not getting hurt to the muscle, you're definitely going to get hurt when you check a leg kick. That's going to hurt your shin every time. So if it's not hurting to the muscle, I mean, they're definitely hurting to the muscle, but he may be better off to take them in the leg than to check him on the shin, because if he dinks his shin nastily, he can lose feeling in his foot, and there goes his footwork. So it might be a tactical decision. I don't know.
That's all fine and well, but he then needs to land for the leg kicks. You know what I mean? Like he can't stand there because what Volkanovski did was he'd land those leg kicks, he'd get inside, he'd land his jab, and he'd get back out, and then he'd continue to chop the leg up. Anyway, so I think Max is going to be a lot more aggressive this time around. Probably not right away, not right out of the gates, but I think come the second round, particularly if he loses the first, I think he's going to be a lot more aggressive. And I'm going to go with Max via split decision. I'm not entirely confident on that, but it's good for us to mix it up too. And I think Max can do it. He just has to make adjustments, big adjustments. And Volkanovski is incredible, but who the fuck wouldn't want to see a rematch of that? A trilogy fight. That would be a big rivalry, and I'm doing it more so out of hope than using my brain. But I'm going to go with Max.
I like it. Okay, I'd love to see it. I hope so. I'll tell you one fight. Literally, I would say probably the fight in the last 2 years that I would, if I had to put money on, that would never, if this fight happened 100 times, it would never be a split decision, is our main event. This goes one of a few ways, but it never ends in a split decision.
Wait, just one sec though. Before you get there,
eat my words.
You went with Volkanovski via decision, correct? Yeah. Split or?
We both have decision. It doesn't matter. Decision.
All right, cool.
So Masvidal.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, because that was actually that was a very, very well put little intro you had on that. Yeah, so essentially for me, do you want to take this one or?
Oh no. Yeah, I just first and foremost, let me say that I don't dislike Usman. A lot of people dislike him, so I don't dislike him. I don't necessarily like him yet. I still haven't really made up my mind on Usman, but I appreciate the hell out of his talents. He's an animal. But right, let me just paint a little picture for you here, Neil. If Jorge Masvidal knocks out Kamaru Usman, right, the next few fights for Masvidal, and you can hate on it all you want, right, but from an entertainment perspective, we have either Nate Diaz or Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor being more justified, but if he calls it out, he'll get it right. But think about how big a Conor McGregor versus Jorge Masvidal fight is for the welterweight title. McGregor's third belt. Masvidal is a big star anyway, and McGregor just came off a first round 40-second KO in the welterweight division. This would be the biggest pay-per-view event in the history of pay-per-view events, bigger than any boxing fight, probably 3 times bigger than any previous MMA fight, bar maybe Diaz. But I think this would smash Diaz. Like Masvidal is twice as big now as Diaz was when he took that first McGregor fight, or if not 3 or 4 times bigger. So if Masvidal pulls this off, man, the world of MMA is gonna go bonkers. But I do not think he's going to pull it off. I think Usman's going to eat him alive, unfortunately. I think Usman's going to wrestle fuck him and put a bit of a dampener on this brilliant card. because I think pretty much everyone's up for Masvidal. It's going to be a phenomenal card up to that point, and then I think Usman's going to just drag him down, maul him. I mean, if the fight is going to go that way, I hope Usman finishes him. Even though I don't want Masvidal to lose, at least get the finish. Don't snuggle him and sweat all over him for 5 rounds and
Casual,
hurt him.
casual. Stand him up.
No, I've no problem watching it, but I just the potential levels of excitement for this fight are so high that if it just goes that boring direction so fast, I would be disappointed.
And that's what happens, that's what happens with these big fights as well. But look, I don't think there's much fear of that because, particularly in Masvidal's recent kind of press conferences and interviews and stuff like that, like he's talking about like he has no other objective but to go in there and finish it. Like he said that. He was like, I had to, I couldn't let it keep going to the judges. It's my job to go in there and be a fucking animal that finishes the fight, and could you imagine seeing that flying knee again? Usman shoots it and he comes out with something like that again.
So but out comes Masvidal, flying knee KO, calls out McGregor versus Masvidal and the winner gets to be president of the United States. It might as well. Fucking Kanye's running and everything. Why not?
So you're going
Jorge Masvidal, Presidente, El Presidente. Imagine. I found that tweet hilarious, by the way. The one that was like, what was it? The prophecy said that Jesus would return in the Middle East. They just didn't know it would be Street Jesus this Saturday night, UFC 251. Did you see that? No,
that's hilarious.
I was laughing.
So you're going with Usman via decision then, right?
Let me go by Usman via TKO KO because if Masvidal gets it done, it's definitely gonna be a TKO KO. So
round.
It's inside the first 2. I think if Masvidal gets it done, it's not done inside the first 2. It's not happening.
Wait, sorry, you're going with Masvidal?
No, I'm going with Usman, but I'm picking KO as the most likely method for the fight to end. So I'm not picking Usman by KO. I'm picking Usman to win, fight most likely to end by KO. That's the way you got to do this.
I'm gonna go with Usman via decision as well. Because honestly,
as well as KO.
What?
I said KO, and you were like, "Yeah, I'm going with decision as well." I was like,
"Oh, sorry, right." Yeah, I mean, the only real chance I can see for George is if he
George, eh?
Yeah, George, Jorge, whatever. It doesn't matter.
How dare you?
The only thing that I can really see is if Usman comes into it having just pretty much gone 5 rounds all in the feet with Covington. He obviously strongly disliked Covington. He strongly dislikes Usman. So if he wants to play that game, he's very much. I think his fight IQ is too high for that. I just can't see him because he knows. Like he must know. He was in the crowd when he saw Masvidal finish Askren with that flying knee, and like he you could see it on his face. He was like, that was scary. So I just can't see how someone of both Usman's technical ability and fight IQ, I can't see him allowing Masvidal any chance of winning this. I think he may stand up for the first couple minutes of the first round, but I mean,
if he does, they'll be slow. He'll be far away from. I gotta say, I think Masvidal. Yeah, he got that flying knee KO on Ben Askren, but he doesn't really have any fast KOs, right? Masvidal sets you up by learning your feints and stuff over. Look at the Darren Till fight. He hit him a couple of times, but he lined him up and knew where he'd be in the second round, and bang, he's not gonna get any chance to line Usman up for a big shot like that without exposing himself to be taken down and dumped on his head. So I really hope Masvidal does it though. Masvidal McGregor, like I just I thought that was the fight to make, man. Like 3 or 4 months ago, right? Yeah. And now I'm like, hang on a minute. If Masvidal gets through this one and then they make that fight, it's about 5 times bigger than it would have been then. Yeah. So it's just, I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately.
Is it fixed? Is it fixed? If Masvidal comes out with a flying knee and finishes Usman, I'm out. I'm not watching it anymore. It's a fix. It's all a fix. Nah, I'm gonna watch that fight regardless. But to be honest, I would only watch that in the hopes that Masvidal knocks McGregor's head clean off. Yeah. But Yeah, we both know I'm going to watch that fight.
One other thing as well, there is a lot of kind of insinuating factors here with Usman. Well, obviously Masvidal too, right? But change of opponent on 6 days' notice. He was talking to Ariel Helwani yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, I've got nothing to gain and everything to lose."
Yeah.
He's training with Trevor Rittman as his head coach for the first time ever. They've trained together, but he's never coached him. Change of opponent on 6 days' notice, from a kind of a blitzkrieg rapid striker to a more crafty veteran in Masvidal. Different height, different reach, the travel, the coronavirus. Like, we have no idea how this is affecting anyone mentally. Now, I mean, Usman seems solid mentally. So does Masvidal. But who the hell knows? Who knows? You know, there could be something going on in Usman's head that, you know, he might go out there and he'll never score a takedown, and Masvidal will light him up for 5 rounds. You know, we're in a weird kind of a situation. So hard to say.
Tune into episode 12 to find out.
Tune into episode 12 to find out. Yeah, so we're on Sunday. We have a confirmed guest, so we'll be on Sunday to review the fights and preview Wednesday's card. And yeah, that's pretty much it from us. Shout out to Lawrence Kelly for getting Dean on again. Shout out to Dean for coming on. You hero. Great to chat to you, man. Full Reptile MMA. Get on and get that stuff, get that shit followed. I'll tag it all in the episode as we upload it down below. Full Reptile on Instagram and so on and so forth. And then obviously the UFC. I'm sure anyone watching this podcast is already following the UFC, so I debate that up. But
and enjoy one of the on paper greatest nights of violence we may ever see. So let's hope it lives up to the hype.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good Saturday. All right, brother. Go on, listen.
Peace.
Yeah, have a what is it? It's now officially Wednesday here in Ireland. Still Tuesday for you. Have a fantastic Tuesday afternoon. Greatest day of my day of the week.
Thanks, bro.
It's too late, man. I gotta go to bed. Go on. Peace.